look perfect. And just because you're having your quiet time, and just because you're going to church, and just because you're doing X, Y, and Z doesn't mean life is now going to be perfect. There's always goals. Now going to be perfect. There's always goals. There's always, it may look by the seat of your pants, but there's always than you ever thought or imagined. And I'm telling you, most of your imaginations, if we're honest, are really creative and they're pretty wild. So he says, look, I hadn't got there, and I'm not perfect, but I am pressing on. I'm gliding along, I'm pressing on. Pressing is an intentional thing. It is something to where you're working at it, you're striving towards it. In other words, setting these goals and getting to where you want to be, it's not going to be easy. You don't just wake up one day and go bench press 400 pounds. You got to bench press 100 pounds a few times. And then you got to bench press 125 and then 150. And you got to build that up. By building up your muscles, you're really tearing your muscles apart. And so there's some hard work that's built into this moving forward. No, even if it's moving forward for a great reason and in a good thing, it still can be painful. It still can cause some anxiety in your life. It still can cause some tough times in your life. But he says, I press on. Why? Because Jesus made me his own. He has literally adopted me into his family. But if I adopted him, I could not legally ever do it. Jesus has adopted you, and all your behavior issues and all your crazy, God says, I know it and I still choose you. You didn't ultimately choose your children. You kind of just got what you got, right? I mean, Hayden was born and the first thing I said was, he looks like a little alien. Everybody talk about babies are so cute, and women are the notorious. Oh, that baby's so cute. And I'm looking at it going, that's a little alien monkey child thing. I don't know what you see is cute. So it wasn't like I just got to go down to the nursery and said, ooh, that's the cutest one. Let me pick him. I got what I got. And I didn't pitch a fit. But for all of us, God comes in and says, I choose you. I pick you. I pick you. God, but you don't know about my past. No, I pick you still. You don't know what I'm going to do in the future. He's doing that because God is picking him. Verse 13, brothers, I don't consider that I have made it my own, but one thing that you ask somebody forget what happened 3 years ago, I guarantee you somebody's going to bring it up. Ooh, easy on pointing fingers over there, bub. I'm telling you, I remember on my grandmother's microwave, everybody remembers the bad I do, but nobody ever remembers the good I do. And boy, men, women, we're good to our spouses. Like 6 months ago when you goofed this, when you said that and you didn't do it. And I tell my wife all the time, honey, you don't have to, if I tell you I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. You don't have to remind me every 6 months that I'm going to do it. It's going to eventually get done, right? You know, and we bring it up. And let's think about it. That's on a personal level, even on like a church level. Even for some, man, church is great right now, but we can't help but think what church was like 5 years ago or 2 years ago. And maybe you're new to church and you're going, man, this is great, but I remember when I do them, look, here's the key thing behind all of this is that what's past is past. I can't change it. I can't do anything. Again, super hard to do, and I understand that. Verse 14, I press on towards the goal for the prize. There's a prize. Ultimately, it's eternal life. It's salvation. It's life change. It's making sure that when you go to heaven, your family is there with you, all those kind of things. That's the ultimate goal that we're pressing on towards, because guess what? The past can't do anything about getting you there. The only thing that can get you to where you want to be is the work that you do now going forward. And it is so hard to forget the past. And it is so, I wish we could be like God and our forgive and our forget. Can you imagine that God, in reality, looks at you when you ask for forgiveness of a sin, and God, who can do everything, who's all-powerful, omniscient, omnipresent, man, I heard a kid put it this way the other day. The kid's like 8 years old. He said, God is like the Superman of all Supermans. And I'm like, works for me at age 8. I can deal with that. The one thing God promises is it's as far as the east is from the west. And contrary to what some ninnies believe, the world is round. It is not flat. And it is never ending between the east and the west. And God says, I can't even remember it. Now think about in our relationships and in our own heart, if I could let myself forget what I did stupid. Mm-hmm.
It would be humanly impossible to forget historical events that have happened in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is my personal opinion, according to me.
Okay.
I think there's two kinds of memory: the historical memory,
Mm-hmm.
emotional memory, and I think that's where we do the forgiving. Blow on the head to make me forget them.
Mm-hmm.
You forgive people in the emotional memory.
Yes.
You can see the event, but you don't have those feelings.
Mm-hmm. But it is also so easy for Satan to get in our emotions and try to tie those back together. And that's what we watch out for. And God's going, no, I done forgot it. But ultimately, to your point, if we could get to a place where we just go, okay, that really was in the past. I can't help it. It's there. It takes a lot of trust and faith in the person. It takes a lot of rebuilding trust and faith in the person. And it takes a lot of trust and faith in Jesus to go, okay, God, I'm going here. But it's awful hard to go in this direction, to your point, if we're constantly looking back and seeing where we're at. And I don't know about you, I might could have done it better when I was little. I don't walk in a very good straight line if I'm looking left or right. Do you ever see the episode on TV of the guy recently, what was his name, the Great Walinka, and he walks the tightrope? You don't see him going, I mean, he is literally singularly right here. Direction. There's just looking right here. And I can tell you from experience that's true. I climbed up on my roof last weekend to clean my gun. And I realized I like climbing on roofs a lot better when I was younger. Now that I'm old, and I'm literally on this pit, and I'm going like this. And I got this backpack blower on me, and I'm going to clean out those gutters, and I'm moving like this. And eventually I stopped thinking about the fact that I can fall, and I sort of stood up. And when I stood up, I realized, oh, there's balance that way, and now I start thinking about falling. But as long as I would be focused on moving my leg in this spot, that's where I'm going, I was able to get in the direction that I needed to be. Fortunately, I obviously made it down. I was a little nervous. But that's the idea, is that we press towards where we want to be. And to go in a certain direction, there are some goals that go into that. So he presses on towards the goal of the prize for the upward call of Jesus. And he says in verse 15 of Philippians chapter 3, he says, let those of us who are mature think this way. And if anything you think, and if in anything you otherwise, God's going to reveal that to you also. So I'm really focused on that part that says, let those of us who are mature think this way. If we are mature in Christian life, we are thinking about vision and goal for the future. If we are mature in our relationships, we are thinking about vision and goal for the future. If we are thinking in even our of, we're looking for the next. We're looking for the forward. We're looking for the vision. And so it kind of leads us, I want to show you some things that this passage stands out to me. If you're going to accomplish your goals, if you're going to get where you want to be, number one thing is you have got to know what your goal is, which does mean you have to sometimes write it down. You have to think through it. That is why, I have our long-range planning committee going through. Let's put together a document that says these are our 5-year goals. 5 years. We are not strategic and we are not intentional. He says, but I press on in verse 12 to make it my own. That goal has to become something that is part of you, that you are excited and you celebrate what's now and you enjoy what's now, but you think and you work towards that goal. So you've got to know your goal. Number 2, you've got to know how to go. That I want to be able to run a 9-minute mile. Okay. Go outside and time me, I'm not going to run a 9-minute mile. Right? Setting a goal, having a goal, saying we want X, Y, and Z doesn't make it so. You might, some of your teenagers, I grew up as a Michael Jordan fan. I mean, my goal might be, I want to dunk like Mike. I want to be like Mike. Well, guess what? I still can't dunk. I'm still not like Mike. I've still never dunked a basketball in my whole life. I've never dunked a basketball in my whole life. 8-foot goal maybe, not a 10-foot goal. What are some of your goals? Your goals are, okay, I want to buy a 4-bedroom house. Does that make it so? Without action along the way, you're not planning for what it's going to take to get you there. And this goal, for him, he says, the steps are for me to go. 1 is I got to forget what lies behind. I got to get over the past. I got to get past that. Then he says, I've got to, action step number 2, strain forward to what lies ahead. So he's not going to just get to be a better Christian. He's not going to just get to be more Christ-like just by having that as his goal. There's steps he has to take. Number 1, he lets it go of the past. Then he moves towards the future. But even right now, I am pressing towards the goal. I have set a goal. I'm letting go of the past. I've set this goal for the future. And right now, I'm not just flying all willy-nilly in the middle of all of it. I'm pressing towards this goal. And that's how you begin to go towards your goal. Number 3 is this, and it ought to seem pretty true and pretty obvious, but goals are never achieved without the go. You're never achieving a goal until you go. Until you move in that direction, you're not going to achieve that goal. You can say, hey, I want to ultimately get my doctorate degree. Nobody's calling you doctor until you enroll in class and finish the classes. You're not going to meet those goals until you move forward. You've got to go. You've got to get sometimes out of your comfort zone. And that's where the problem for many of us is like, even though this is not where I want to be, I am really comfortable right here. You take it back to a workout thing, your whole body after you work out. Everything hurts. And so you're like, okay, I was a whole lot more comfortable when I had no muscles and I was 250 pounds. I was way more comfortable right there because there was no pain involved. Muscles, unless I go and get out of my comfort zone where that is what is comfortable. The great thing about what God does is he always challenges you to get out of your comfort zone, but he never asks you to leave your gift zone. God is always, if he's got a place for you that he's got for you to go, he's already prepared in you the gift and the power in Jesus to do it. So yes, you're leaving your comfort zone, but you're not out there with no help, no backstop, nobody having your back, no nothing. You're still in the middle of where God has gifted you to be. And that's the part that we forget so much, is we're like, man, it's going to be scary if I do that. Maybe. Me anxiety if I do that. The most in the gut. When we're scared, we feel it in the gut. It scares us. It troubles our stomach. And we just go, but God's going, look, you gotta take a step. Because until you take the step, you don't begin to accomplish what God has planned for you. And we oftentimes just decide, you know what, God? I'm here a little bit. God ultimately wants to get us, because sometimes that little bit better is enough. And we think, oh, that's enough, because it's at least better than what I was. But God goes, no, I want you to be more than that. Going to church, but let me ask you a question. You ever feel run down? Yeah. You ever feel sometimes even like life is falling apart? Yeah, sometimes I do that. People like Abraham in the Bible, Moses in the Bible, other heroes in the Bible, they all faced really difficult and tough times. And there's a word in the Hebrew that sums up the faith that they had in those times. I may butcher the pronunciation, but this word is HINENI. Barbara is good with languages and words. She can tell me later if I butchered it or not. But it is that is used, it's described to mean the way people declare to God that they were present and they were ready to be used by Him, even when things were falling apart and even when their faith was being tested. They still said, here am I. They were still showing up for God. And so many times we're like, I'll show up for God when it's good. I'll show up when I'm not being crazy. Show up in all of your distress and say, I'm here, God. That's faith. Well, God, when I get to this place with my family, then God can use me. And God's going, no, show up. Just be here am I. Think about how it was used in the Old Testament. HINENI is Abraham, I'll follow God. Here I am is a thing when Moses is standing in front of a burning bush, being told to face his biggest fears and do something beyond his comprehension. He still says, here I am. Situation He has placed you in. Wherever you're at, can you tonight come to a point where you go, and I don't always know what step 2, 3, and 4 is going to look like, but here I am, reporting for duty. I am here, and I'm showing up for the battle. My devotional last week said this: the thought of here I am is more than a simple statement. It's a declaration that you are prepared to follow God and to step into the future He has planned for you, regardless of how uncertain that future may be. Do you feel run down today? Do you feel like declare, here I am, that you're here and that you're ready to follow Him no matter what? That's when we take steps of real faith. Man, it's so easy to do that on Sunday mornings when there's 150 of you. Not good. Can I say, here I am, Lord, reporting for duty? What's the little kid song you used to sing in Bible school? But I'm in the Lord's army. Guess what the greatest soldiers do? They show up when they're called upon. And God is calling upon us to show up. Because it just may be that your life is never the same, your family's life is never the same, and it may be that your whole, like I love it when athletes get paid, the difference between your grandkids growing up in a Christian family versus a non-Christian family. This could be the catalyst, you showing up 20, 30 years from now and go, well, my grandmama did it because I remember when she said to the Lord, here am I. I'm letting go of the past and I'm pressing towards that. that you would use me however you need to use me. You don't have to show me every step of the way. And I know that's easy to say. The men around me will join around me in doing that. The men and women will join together in saying, man, we want our church to appreciate and value, yes, everything about the past, but our main objective is pressing on towards the future, that the next generations would see you in all of your glory. So God, may we individually live that out. Will we be people, God, that are less bitter, but we can at least get to the place where we forget the emotion that it caused. God, we'll all be better for it, and at the end of the day,